role the court should take onto itself to prevent political immorality. But this is a very slippery slope, and your lordships have always resisted the temptation in certain areas. Yes, if Mr. Thackeray had contested the floor test, if he had lost by 10, and your lordships felt 16 disqualifications, he has invited Mr. Shinde to form the government. Should he have not allowed Shinde to continue without a floor test? That would have been worse than conducting a floor test. But a short submission. I mean, Mr. Kaul has addressed your lordship on issues which perhaps don't arise really, if your lordship sit back and consider. What is it that your court is called to decide today? I mean, we have answered everything on merits, but Malad, if your lordship take a step back and see what is it that your lordships need to decide. The first step in this entire saga was...
appearing for whom?
Mr. Salve, who do you appear for?
Yes, I'll just give your lordship the numbers.
Sorry, who are you appearing for?
Yes.
So the same set of parties.
There are many respondents.
So different respondents.
Yes,
Multiple
no,
respondents,
Same,
yes.
another set of petitions.
Really, we have to only distinguish the case of the governor because the governor will be represented by
The solicitor, yes.
This client is not colored in any way. There is no confusion about whom I appear.
And the rest of Mr. Kaul, Mr. Salve, Mr. Jetmani, Mr.
We'll give appearances.
for the individual
Yeah,
party.
that's right.
Fair enough, no problem.
Respondents. Okay.
And my lord, the only thing I wanted to broadly respond to is Mr. Sibbal's broad submissions about what role the court should take onto itself to prevent political immorality. But this is a very slippery slope, and your lordships have always resisted the temptation in certain areas to go beyond a particular point. Interpreting the 10th schedule undoubtedly will be inspired by the objects of the 10th schedule, namely to bring in a degree of political morality in public life. But beyond that, my lord, I would submit for the court to embark on this journey would be extremely perilous because there are very delicate balances between institutions involved here. Mr. Uddhav Thackeray resigned. The governor called for a floor test of a sitting chief minister. There was no floor test held. The submission is if he had not called for the floor test and if this had happened and if that had happened, he would have won the floor test. A submission which your lordships should not even countenance for the reason we do not know what happens in that part of the world when it comes to defending the majority of a chief minister. And my lord, it becomes even more perilous in today's day and today's world of coalition politics. How do you know who would have supported whom on that momentous day? What if one of his coalition partners had said, sorry, I can see that you've really lost support of your party. We don't want to support you anymore. We don't know. And it is not for us to understand because these are matters beyond our understanding as lawyers. So, my lord, this entire submission that your lordship must assume a state of facts would have prevailed is extremely hazardous because this is in the realm, my lord, not of legal fiction. This is in the realm of the rough and tumble of politics. And I'm not suggesting any political immorality. My lord, why can it not be that two coalition partners say, we will not support you anymore. We've lost faith in your ability to steer the ship. We don't know whether that would have happened. Would it have happened? Would it not have happened? How can your lordships be invited to hazard that guess that if this had not happened, the but-for test, my lord, which we call in commercial law for breach, the but-for test cannot apply here. Yes, if Mr. Thackeray had contested the floor test, if he had lost by 10, and your lordships felt 16 disqualifications were affected, the court could have said, we need to fix this problem because of our refusal to grant the test, because your lordship said we will not stay the floor test. We will make it subject to our judgment. And your lordships would have been in a position to correct what went wrong. My lord, I know it's a much more mundane world in boardrooms and in company general meetings, but the principle is the same. Somebody says so and so should not be allowed to vote. Your lordship said count his vote separately, and we'll see what happens to the resolution. And the reason is, my lord, suppose he had contested the floor test and lost by 70 votes. All this becomes academic. Yes, if they have defected, is the sin of defection purged? Maybe not. So, my lord, that's the first point which I wanted to make. If that has happened, then if I'm right there, that your lordship cannot and should not embark on any but for assumptions here. Because we do not know what would have happened on that fateful afternoon. Please, my lord, consider another scenario. I'm only giving these not because I'm saying this would have happened. I'm saying this could have happened. Only to persuade your lordship not to go down this road. Let's take another scenario. These 16 were guilty of overt act. They did not show up for a meeting. Somebody says that constitutes abandoning your party. Another 20 people may have done something by which you say they have done an overt act. What do you know is lurking in the minds of others? Look at what happened, and I'm just to buttress this point, Manoj, look at what happened when Shinde came for his floor test. 13 of hardcore so-called supporters of Mr. Thackeray abstained from voting, which basically meant it strengthened his hands. Now, these things happen in public life. How do you know how many more were not harboring the intention of walking away that day? So, Malad, these are all I'm saying is this is rank speculation as far as we are concerned. The politicians may feel that they knew what was going on. And we've had, and I'm just bringing it to your lordship's notice, your lordship know this, we've had a very strange situation in this very state, in this very formation, where one government was sworn in, and within 3 days that government fell and another government had to be sworn in. So, but these things happen. And the person who got sworn in as the deputy chief minister with another formation became deputy chief minister. These fast-moving political waters take different turns at different points. We are not to speculate about them. Now, if I am right there, then Malad, that should be the end of the matter. What is the speaker's constitutional obligation? The general Bomai principle, which your lordship has been shown in para 395 of Bomai, is that please, Mr. Speaker, do not do a mathematics. And Mr. Governor, please do not do this mathematics of but for. Call for the floor test. Let this be decided on the floor. My lord, when governors have sacked governments doing head counts, your lordships have taken him to task saying you're failing in your job. Why? Because it is not for the governor to count heads. What Mr. Sibbal and Dr. Singhvi are trying to do is persuading your lordships to count heads. Because unless you do a head count, your lordship must then come to the firm conclusion that but for these, Uddhav Thackeray would 100% have won. That's head counting. So, my lord, what your lordship said, the governor shouldn't embark upon. Now the judiciary is being asked to embark down that road. Nothing can be more perilous than that, is my submission. Yes, we have a problem. We have a problem. We have the 10th schedule. Is the 10th schedule a perfect Solution? No, it's not. It has its leaks. Parliament is, when the legislature sometimes tries to fix it, sometimes there are conflicting interests, it is not fixed. Malad, the biggest example we have of criminalization in politics, we've had this problem all the while. We have problems about election donations, we have problem about election funding, we have problem about election spending.
Stature versus stature.
These are all problems, Malad, we can't cross beyond a point. So, Malad, first of all, I submit the first set of cases don't arise. Then comes the second situation. What did the governor do? He is left in Maharashtra without a chief minister. If he is left in Maharashtra without chief minister, he has to invite somebody to form the government. Now, he had then two options. He has invited Mr. Shinde to form the government. Should he have not allowed Shinde to continue without a floor test? That would have been worse than conducting a floor test. Where are we in this case? Everything is academic. Yes, the only thing which remains is the 36 pending disqualification petitions, which the speaker will decide. And if he gets them wrong, there is the High Court which will correct them. Your lordships are here, which will correct them. We have, within the parameters of judicial review, your lordships have tested and corrected these orders time and again. That is, my lord, my first submission. My second submission is what happens pending the disqualification petitions. Your lordship has been shown the judgments, but let's, my lord, sometimes it helps. Let's go back on first principles. Please see two provisions of the Constitution, my lord, and whether your lordships find the answer there. 190.
Yeah, we've seen that actually.
Only point.
Your lordship has seen it.
We've seen it.
Correct, my lord? The point which I wanted to make is just show your lordship something in the language of 190, just for 2 minutes.
190 is Parliament. We are more concerned about 180. What's that? 69, no? 160.
The language is identical. I mean,
Identical. Correct.
yes, there's no. The principle of the two is very important. Let's see the compare the equivalent provisions. First see 173. These are qualifications. Person not qualified to fill a seat. I don't need to trouble your lordship with the details.